Does he need another Super Bowl win to be considered among the all-time greats?
I'm afraid I think he does. And that's hard coming from me because, as I've said on many occasions, he's a bad man. Make no mistake about it. He's the most talented quarterback I've ever seen. Certainly not the most accomplished, but the most talented. Yes, he is. At least until Patrick Mahomes came along, and Patrick Mahomes has to have a sustained level of excellence before I'm willing to give him that. Aaron Rodgers is just that bad of a man. Here's the problem. Yes, Aaron Rodgers has a Super Bowl title. Although Brett Favre only has one, more outward as a person, more, eccentric as a personality to some degree, more outward, more personable to some degree in a lot of people's eyes. You had people all over the airways. Oh, look at Brett Favre trip over his offensive lineman. Oh, look at him throw the ball underhanded. Oh, look at him run into the arms of his offensive lineman. The kid in him is still there. It's nevertheless all of this nonsense that they throw out about Brett Favre to keep him relevant. Not that he didn't deserve it because he was great, but you know what I'm saying. Bottom line is, though, Kenny Stabler had one title. Jeff Hostetler had one title. Mark Ripien, Trent Dilfer, Phil Simms, Joe Theismann, people like that. One title. When you get more than one, then all of a sudden, it's Peyton Manning that's up there. It's John Elway that's up there. It's Roger Staubach that's up there. It's Big Ben Roethlisberger that's up there. It's just a different dimension in terms of the conversation from an historical perspective where people start reflecting on your career. They remember you or whatever. Doug Williams could get away with only having one Super Bowl title because he was the first black quarterback to pull it off. So there's historical significance there. But for the most part, guys that won one Super Bowl, you respect them, you praise them. But when you talk about them with the allure that history brings to your argument and what have you, something is lacking when it's just one. Him and Drew Brees, I believe, are going to have that issue. Aaron Rodgers more so than Drew Brees because unfairly, I might add, because I love Aaron Rodgers, but he isn't considered the most personable dude in the world or the most likable dude in the world. And I think those things will get held against him when it's just one title. He wins another, argument goes away.
I couldn't disagree with you more. I think things have changed because Tom Brady got 6. So now it's like, if you want to be in the GOAT conversation, you better have more than one. It used to be you needed one just to be in the GOAT conversation, or else Dan Marino, who was throwing 45-plus touchdowns in an era where no one else was doing it, would be in that GOAT conversation. He's not, because he didn't have one. Had he, he'd have been right there. Peyton Manning getting his second certainly helped him because he's a contemporary of Tom Brady's. Aaron Rodgers already got the one. The guys you mentioned, Stephen A., for the most part, were not quarterbacks on the same level as some of the other guys. So, for example, John Elway would have been remembered like a Donovan McNabb type, very gifted, getting his team all the way there, but not over the top, right? Not actually winning the chip. He got a running back last couple seasons, got to. That really helped him. He was in the GOAT conversation for a while. Brett Favre's got one. He's in the GOAT conversation. If you are already super talented and among, generally a top 3 to 5 quarterback of your era year in and year out, and you got a Super Bowl, you're an all-time great. Drew Brees is an all-time great. Aaron Rodgers is an all-time great. What he could use is another one to start having people say, wait a minute. He's got 2. I know Brady got 6, but Brady was with Belichick, especially let's see what happens in this divorce, Brady and Belichick. If Rodgers gets another one and then gets close, let's say one more time, you start to look at it and say, look, contemporaries thought he was just better. He never threw interceptions, threw a lot of touchdowns, could do everything we want, and he has that second Super Bowl. Now he can, unlike Peyton Manning, he didn't choke under pressure in the playoffs. So Rodgers could start to maybe enter a GOAT conversation with a second Super Bowl. But as far as just all-time great goes, he's already an all-time great. He's already been validated by the Super Bowl. He does not need another one to be called an all-time great.
You know what, Max, I completely agree with you. He's an all-time great. Now, from an accomplishment standpoint, he may not have GOAT accomplishments, but when you look at what does the all-time great mean? That means you are one of, or you have been one of the best to ever be, whatever it is that we're talking about being all-time great. there was a period of time where Aaron Rodgers, we talked about him being the most talented quarterback in the National Football League, a period of 5 to 8 years. When you look at some of the records that Aaron Rodgers had from a passer rating standpoint, he's probably the quarterback that's taken most care of the football in the history of the game. Not his era, but the history of the game. And when you talk about touchdown to interception ratio, yeah, I get it. He only has one Super Bowl. And I think what we hold against him is the fact that he's arguably been the most talented quarterback that we've ever seen, and he only has one Super Bowl. Let me remind you guys that there are 22 players on the field. And even when you're great, even when you're the best at what you do at a particular position, you still need help. How many times has Aaron Rodgers been in a position where we said, can the defense in Green Bay be better? How many times where we've said, can Aaron Rodgers have a few more weapons? Aaron Rodgers is an all-time great quarterback, but he just can't do it by himself. And to your point, Max, about John Elway, yes, I get you. John Elway got helped by Terrell Davis. But regardless, John Elway would be an all-time great. I think we get accomplishments and championships confused with whether or not you're an all-time great. Hell, Charles Barkley.
But Jim Kelly, is Jim Kelly an all-time great?
Karl Malone,
Hold on, Max.
Dan Marino. These people can be all-time great without championships. I'm sorry?
I think so, but is he? Is Jim Kelly an all-time great?
I'm sorry, Max.
I
I
think he is. I would say so. Is Jim Kelly an all-time great? I think he is, but Elway's usually ahead of him.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.